These are anxious times for many of us. These times of lockdown, self-isolation, staying at home can be overwhelming. It's as if our fears have no place to hide. Fear of the well-being of loved ones, fear for our own mortality, fear for our mental health, fear of change, fear for our livelihoods and the economy, fear for the vulnerable, and for communities with few resources to fight this pandemic. Perhaps some of us feel more exposed to our fears, partly because our props and routines and distractions have been taken away. The inspiring work of the eco-philosopher Joanna Macy seems particularly relevant in our present situation. She's been researching the emotional and spiritual aspects of climate change, the other international emergency humanity is faced with. She suggests that the all-consuming high-carbon lifestyles we lead in the West, based on industrial growth and the need for things, makes us numb and disconnected from the health of our planet and our own health and peace of mind. Her guidance, that she calls work that reconnects, seems as valuable for us in how we come to terms with the coronavirus as how we respond to global warming. She says that the most radical thing any of us can do at this time is to be present with what is happening in the world. Many of us, despite the huge challenges of COVID-19, feel awakened at the moment on some level, as if we've stepped back from our usual lives and been offered the opportunity to reflect and take stock and learn. In her book Active Hope, that she wrote with Chris Johnston, she outlines 4 steps to help us counter our fears or sense of inadequacy. They are: number 1, gratitude, being appreciative and grateful of the blessings in our lives. 2, honouring our pain for the world and for all people and communities who are suffering right now. 3, seeing with new eyes, discovering new perspectives to see this life. And 4, going forth with practical, everyday steps that we can take into the future. It seems to me that a central part of her message is for us to wake up to what is real while expanding our capacity for hope. Rumi, the 13th century Sufi mystic, was perhaps offering us this guidance all those years ago in The Guest House, one of his most well-known and well-loved poems. I'll read you an extract. The Guest House. This being human is a guest house. Every morning a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still treat each guest honourably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. For me, this poem celebrates the power of mindfulness and being open and alive to all emotions, whether positive or negative, and seeing what they say. Another spiritual practice that can help us deal with our fears and anxieties is to be aware of our connection with the lives of our ancestors and all those who live after us. I was encouraged to see that those 5 huge temporary NHS field hospitals opened very recently to help us treat those sick with the coronavirus are called Nightingale hospitals. Florence Nightingale, 1820 to 1910, British nurse, statistician and social reformer who was the foundational philosopher of modern nursing. Nightingale was put in charge of nursing British and Allied soldiers in Turkey during the Crimean War. Most important, Nightingale established standards of care requiring such basic necessities as bathing, clean clothing and dressings, and adequate food. Florence's parents were Unitarian, although Florence herself was a liberal Anglican, and she said that if Jesus came again, he should come as a woman. In setting up these vast field hospitals, we are honouring her memory and legacy. And maybe this pandemic is inviting us to acknowledge all the contributions and discoveries given to us by our ancestors that help us live our lives with more safety or inspiration or knowledge, and to feel more in touch with those family members who are the foundation of our own lives, and what fragments of wisdom we can pass on to children ourselves. I remember a few years ago, while walking along the very old footpath, the Offers Dyke, I felt befriended by a very old boundary oak tree, probably more ancient than 500 years old. I looked more closely and realised that there were hundreds of ladybirds nesting in the grooves of its trunk. I sat on its roots for what seemed ages, and I felt a tiny part of all the generations of humans that have lived on the face of this planet. I felt very small, but also of significance, as significant as the ladybirds. Perhaps these strange times of lockdown are a precious time for us to return to our connection and relationship with eternity, with those who have lived before us and all those who will be inheriting this earth after our departure. There is an African proverb that goes, "The world was not left to us by our parents, it was lent to us by our children." I'll leave you with a prayer by Terry Tempest Williams, poet and naturalist. I pray to the birds. I pray to the birds because I believe they will carry the messages of my heart upwards. I pray to them because I believe in their existence, the way their songs begin and end each day, the invocations and benedictions of earth. I pray to the birds because they remind me of what I love rather than what I fear. And at the end of my prayers, they teach me how to listen. Amen, and thanks for listening.